I have breaking news to report tonight. Joran van der Sloot, the suspect in the 2005 disappearance of American teen Natalee Holloway, is headed this way. The president of Peru, Dina Boluarte, has just signed an order directing the Peruvian government to extradite now 35-year-old Joran van der Sloot to the United States. That was 2 nights ago, right here. I broke the news on a story that I have been investigating for 2 weeks shy of 18 years. Peru is extraditing Joran van der Sloot to the United States to face a federal indictment for a 2010 wire fraud and for extortion of Natalee Holloway's mother, Beth Holloway. If convicted of these 2 felonies, and if given the maximum sentence by a U.S. federal judge, van der Sloot will serve 40 years in a U.S. prison. Incidentally, a 40-year sentence is 12 years more than van der Sloot is serving now for brutally beating and strangling 21-year-old Peruvian Stephanie Flores in 2010. He got 28 years for that. Peru is sending van der Sloot to the U.S. pursuant to a 2001 treaty between the U.S. and Peru, which allows for essentially a loan of van der Sloot to stand trial. After he stands trial in the Alabama federal court, he will be returned to Peru to then finish that 28-year sentence for murdering Stephanie Flores. At the conclusion of serving his term in Peru, and if convicted in Alabama federal court before that, van der Sloot will then be returned back to Alabama to begin serving his sentence for wire fraud and extortion here in the United States. Now, as you know, it's reported that Natalee Holloway was last seen leaving a bar with van der Sloot on May 30th, 2005. She waved out the car window to her friends in the parking lot, and that was it. She disappeared, never to be seen again. In reporting about Natalee Holloway for the last 18 years, I've used those words disappeared or last seen, but frankly, it's become silly for me to say that. I know he killed her. Beth, her mother, knows it too. And we both know it, not just because we are suspicious like you are, but because for the last 18 years, when Natalee has not been in the headlines, Beth and I continued to work on this investigation. How much? Well, just to give you a background thumbnail idea, I would estimate that just in the last 3 years alone, Beth and I have spoken every single day, more than 5 times a day, all about the investigation. That's how much we've worked on it. We have learned so much. And you might be wondering, why so much time when it seems so obvious what happened and who did it? Well, first, because Beth, the mother, never gave up on her child, not for 1 second. She would not and she did not. She wanted to know everything that happened to her child. And second, because Beth and I have learned that what you think you know about Joran van der Sloot, Aruba, and Natalee Holloway, I assure you that's just the tip of the iceberg. After Joran's trial in Alabama federal court, Beth and I will both tell you the entire story, and it is stunning. But in the meantime, we want to be careful not to jeopardize van der Sloot's trial in Alabama, neither for him nor for Beth. Van der Sloot is entitled to a fair trial on both counts, and I expect he will get that fair trial as the Constitution requires. In the meantime, the level of worldwide interest has been huge. The week before the news broke, a Google search shows there were a mere 7 mentions on news websites about van der Sloot. Now a web search in just the past 2 days since the breaking news brings up almost 30,000 mentions of Joran van der Sloot and Natalee Holloway. Peru's decision to send van der Sloot to the U.S. for a fair trial is also making headlines all over the globe. Here are just a few. A headline in Spain: Joran van der Sloot, 2 murders, a 28-year sentence, and a temporary extradition to the U.S. In Italy, Peru will send Dutch murderer Joran van der Sloot, implicated in the disappearance of American, to the United States. From the Netherlands, of which Aruba is part of their kingdom, Peru extradites Joran van der Sloot to the U.S. In the Middle East, the United Arab Emirates, Joran van der Sloot, Peru to extradite May connected to U.S. teenager's disappearance. Now over to Asia, to Taiwan. Timeline: extradition of prime suspect in Natalee Holloway disappearance. And then from Peru, Joran van der Sloot, what crimes are you charged with in Peru, and why is the U.S. asking for it? And then out of Aruba, which in my opinion has a lot of explaining to do. Dutch suspect in Natalee Holloway disappearance faces extradition from Peru to U.S. on fraud charges. Yes, the entire world is watching this story. And as an aside, I know that Beth Holloway and her son Matt, Natalee's brother, greatly appreciate all the kindness people have shown to them over the last 18 years. It has been so rough, and as you might imagine, but people have been very kind. They are also especially grateful to Peru, a democratic country, a friend of the United States, keeping its word under a treaty. This morning, by the way, the ambassador of Peru to the U.S., Gustavo Meza Cuadra, was on Good Morning America. Here's what he had to say.
this individual has caused a lot of sorrow, not only in the U.S., but also in Peru. So it's time for him to face also the charges he has here in the U.S.